doing a closed-eye contemplation or meditation, and I thought, being the facilitator, I would send them love, unconditional love. So I did my best, and I could feel myself trying to send love. And you ever had a really old tube of toothpaste that has crusted over and you have to really squeeze it to get anything out? So I was really pressuring my heart to send some love out, and it came out like, at which point I knew I had a problem. And so I spent about 10 years working on heart meditation as my practice, which was essentially focusing on the energies of the heart and feeling into the heart, breathing into the heart. It's almost the exact same thing we do here. But in that practice of opening my heart, I began to realize that every time I went to a certain depth, I felt grief. That in this heart, there was this sadness and grief. Of course, that was what was underneath all the anger and the depression, right? Was this, and it took about 10 years for it to lift completely. And even now, when I move into the heart, quite often I am close to tears, and I have that sensitivity. And I think all of us have a real sensitivity when we get to this unprotected heart. We're become really, I won't say fragile, but we do become very sensitive. And so it's said that when the heart is open, a feather can hurt. And so I think that's why we develop this crust around the heart and begin to set up the walls, and we do whatever we can to protect it, and we're estranged from others. So in the Sacred Prayer Circle just a few minutes ago, we were up there and we started the whole thing off by talking about someone, something, some event, something that you really truly loved. And one of the first people to speak said, you know, I was thinking of people that were really, I held in my heart. You know, they were very flawed people when I was with them. And I thought, of course, they're very flawed people when they're with them. That's how I think of them, those people at the time. But then as time passes, I look from a distance and I see them more clearly. And we love them, right? And we love them, and they reside in our hearts then, just without all that commentary on their flaws. This is and then someone else in the circle said, oh, let me tell you one more. So someone else in the circle said, this friend of mine is dying. He's dying. And he's in hospice. And I go to see him, and I try to talk to him, and all he can say is, I love you. And someone across the room said, why do we wait so long? Why do we wait so long to have that as our standard experience, our full experience? And I think it is that we're trying to protect something and trying to save something from, we're in a state of protection. And I think the thing we're in a state of protection are two things. One is our body, in part, but more often what we're really trying to protect is our identity, our sense of self, our personality. And this protection of the personality is why we put up these walls, so that our hearts won't be broken. But when you're dying and you've lost everything already, you don't have anything to protect. And so what was there can come out. Or when you're at a distance and it's been years since you were with that person, then all you see is the beauty in them. And that's what comes out, is because we've stopped protecting. And so the question of how do we become that person that loves with their heart open all the time is we must learn somehow to deal with this self-protection. We must overcome the natural tendency to take care of the heart by self-protection. Because, as I said before, it is as tender as it can be. And when it's open, a feather hurts. but there was an Aikido master riding on the subway in Japan, and a drunk comes in who's very belligerent and is actually taking swings at people and tries to hit this woman, actually bumps her. And, so this Aikido student who's been working at it 8 hours a day for 3 years has never been able to actually use it in a real life situation. And his teachers always told him, you know, excuse me, the objective of Aikido is peace, not conflict. And so he's walked away from circumstances, but he's always wanted to be in a situation where he was really challenged and it was the right thing to do. So here's one as close as it's ever going to get. This guy is attacking a woman with a baby, and he's going up to him and he's starting his move toward him and inviting him to attack this Aikido student instead of the other woman. And just as it's coming to the boiling point, he hears this man behind him go, "Hey!" And he's not looking at the Aikido man, but at the drunk. "Hey!" And the guy turns and looks at him, and he's about to unleash his anger on this man when the man says, "Hey! What you drinking?" And he goes, "Sake!" He goes, "Oh, sake, I love sake too. My wife and I, every night, we sit under the tree that we planted when we were younger, and we talk about how well it's doing and the blossoms, and we drink our sake every evening." And he goes on to talk with this guy, and this guy can't quite get what's going on, but he could see he's a little disoriented, and finally the guy says, "You know, this tree is a persimmon tree. I love persimmons. Don't you love persimmons?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, I like persimmons." And he goes, "Yeah, we sit there, you know, I have a beautiful wife, and we sit under this tree. I'm sure you have a beautiful wife too." He goes, and the drunk collapses. And he says, "My wife is dead. I have no wife. I have no job. I'm ashamed of myself." And the Aikido guy, who's right there, so ready to pounce, says, with the words, with the kindness of words, the whole thing was diffused. When he leaves the subway, he looks back and he sees the drunk lying with his filthy hair and head on this man's lap, and the old man is rubbing his hair as the old drunk cries on his lap. There's a case of the negative feedback loop instigating a positive feedback loop, where you do something different and the world changes. And people begin to have another experience of what is possible. Where in that moment it looked like the best thing you could do was strike the man down in some way. And what unfolds instead is this healing of this drunk's heart, because someone has seen him for who he really is.